Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a story that, well, it really shook up one of the world's most influential communication platforms, Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter.
Yeah, quite a story. And our mission today is basically to distill the most important nuggets of knowledge from the sources you've shared. We'll get into not just what happened, but really why it mattered.
Connecting the dots, right, between the personality of the policies.
Exactly. And the huge impact on our digital public squares. Get ready for some insights that maybe go beyond the headlines, because this is definitely more than just a simple business deal.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before Elon Musk even enters the picture, Twitter had its own share of drama, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was wrestling with some pretty fundamental questions about online speech, about its own identity, really.
It started with that 140-character limit, which seems quaint now.
Yeah.
Designed for text messages, apparently.
Yeah, for SMS compatibility.
Yeah.
And it just exploded after that 2007 South by Southwest conference. That was kind of the big launch pad.
And initially, the philosophy was very hands-off. Laissez-faire.
Pretty much. That approach came from Biz Stone, one of the co-founders from his previous company, Blogger. Jack Dorsey, the first CEO, he preferred to focus on the tech side.
So he left the messy stuff, the thorny issues, as he called them, to others.
Right. But that hands-off approach, well, it didn't take long for problems to surface. Crises started forcing policy changes pretty early on.
Like #Gamergate in 2014, that was rough.
Yeah, horrific stuff. False accusations against Zoe Quinn, a game developer, leading to rape and death threats. It really exposed the platform's dark side, what happens without checks.
And around the same time, #Ferguson.
The protests in Ferguson highlighted Twitter's power for social movements, absolutely, but also, again, its real struggles with handling abuse.
So a key point emerging here is how Twitter's design, its very DNA, clashed with, well, how people actually behave online.
Exactly. It highlights this fundamental tension, doesn't it? That conflict between open dialogue and preventing harm. It's something all these platforms grapple with. No easy answers.
And this tension led to people inside Twitter pushing for more moderation.
Right. You had figures like Vijaya Gadde, a corporate lawyer who was pretty risk-averse. She joined and basically argued that the tweets must flow just wasn't practical.
She found an ally in Del Harvey.
Yeah, Del Harvey, Twitter's 25th hire, actually. She came from a child safety background, the Perverted Justice Foundation. Her research was crucial. It showed that really nasty threats, even from just a few accounts, were enough to scare users away. That convinced the higher-ups that, good speech wouldn't naturally drown out the bad. You needed active intervention.
It got so bad that even the CEO at the time, Dick Costolo, admitted it publicly.
Yeah, that quote was pretty stark. We suck at dealing with abuse and trolls, and we've sucked at it for years. Really blunt.
So Dorsey eventually comes back as CEO. Did that change anything fundamentally with moderation or just set the stage for, well, more drama?
Well, Dorsey definitely wanted back in. Despite his success with Square, he apparently still resented Evan Williams, the largest shareholder then, and wanted control of Twitter.
Why Twitter, though, if Square was successful?
Cultural sway, that's what the sources suggest. Square was useful, sure, but Twitter. Presidents, actors, musicians Dorsey admired. They relied on it. It had this massive influence.
He called it a zoo he struggled to manage.
Yeah, which kind of gets back to that earlier point, doesn't it? Was Twitter just destined to be this difficult place to manage, this constant battleground over content, no matter who was in charge?
A magnet for both amazing discourse and, well, total chaos.
Precisely. And the stage was definitely being set for someone even more disruptive to step in.
Which brings us inevitably to Elon Musk. Let's talk about him, his background. South Africa, then Canada, then the U.S.
Right. Dropped out of Stanford pretty quick to chase the internet, as they say. Started Zip2 with his brother, Kimball.
Using money from their father.
Yep, $28,000. They sold Zip2 for $305 million. Then came X.com.
Which became PayPal.
Merged with Confinity, to become PayPal. And even then, you saw his style. He clashed with Peter Thiel, wanted to rename the whole thing X. Thiel apparently found him obstinate.
Interesting. And this self-promotion thing, he was good at that early on?
Oh, definitely. A master of using the press, getting his story out there. The sources even mention him correcting his receding hairline for his image.
Wow. And his view of journalists.
Not high, apparently. Called them idiots who needed to be spoon-fed. He preferred to control the narrative himself.
And Twitter became his main way to do that, his megaphone.
Absolutely. Company announcements pushing employees publicly. It all happened on Twitter first. He used it to drive his agenda directly.
And sometimes controversially, right? That Pito Guy lawsuit.
Yeah, 2019. Calling the cave diver Vernon Unsworth that name led to a defamation suit.
But he won.
He did. His lawyer, Alex Spiro, argued Twitter was basically a war zone, a free-for-all for verbal combat. And winning that case seems to have just, emboldened Musk further.
And by April 2022, his wealth was just astronomical.
Almost $270 billion, mostly Tesla stock. That gave him incredible purchasing power.
So while other billionaires bought yachts or sports teams,
he wanted the megaphone, he wanted Twitter, a place to broadcast his voice to hundreds of millions.
It really underscores how wealth and maybe a certain kind of personality can just completely reshape these huge platforms.
Yeah, turning a company almost into a personal tool.
So how did he actually make the move? He saw Twitter as an ideological tool, right? Skewed liberal.
That seems to be the core belief mentioned in the sources, yeah. That it was run by, quote, San Francisco liberals suppressing views he liked. He wanted to inject his own set of mores into the conversation.
So he started buying shares quietly.
Got up to a 9% stake. Then he runs that poll asking if Twitter supports free speech. Over 70% of 2 million voters said no.
And someone told him to buy it.
Yeah. Mike Cernovich, a far-right figure linked to Pizzagate, replied, buy Twitter.
And then, bam. April 2022, the offer comes in. $54.20 a share.
$44 billion total, which, for context, was more than double what Facebook paid for WhatsApp. Roughly the GDP of Paraguay. It was a massive number.
The board wasn't keen initially.
No. Led by Brett Taylor, they were suspicious. But they had that fiduciary duty to shareholders, that legal obligation to consider the financial offer.
So they used a poison pill. What exactly is that?
It's a defense tactic. Basically, it allows existing shareholders, other than the hostile bidder, to buy more shares at a discount. It floods the market, dilutes the bidder's stake, and makes the takeover way more expensive, ideally prohibitively so.
Gotcha. And the CEO at the time, Parag Agrawal. Tough spot for him.
Hugely tough. Employees called it a hostage situation. He's trying to keep things running, telling people to focus on what they can control. But apparently, internally, he kind of agreed with Musk that moderation had gone too far.
How did Musk plan to pay for this? $44 billion is a lot.
Well, he took out a huge personal loan, $12.5 billion, against his Tesla stock. Saw it as a stopgap. But he also hustled for outside investors.
Like Larry Ellison.
Yep, Ellison put in $2 billion. Mark Andreessen, $250 million. His pitch deck promised huge growth ads, payments, Twitter Blue, and this mysterious X product.
But the CFO, Ned Segal, thought the numbers were basically made up.
That's what the sources suggest, yeah. He found them puzzling, speculated they were completely made up. It was a very aggressive projection.
So a huge gamble. Then the lawyers get involved.
Right. Twitter hired top M&A lawyers from Wachtell Lipton. They aimed for a deal, putting all the legal risk on Musk, the buyer. And Musk, apparently being in a rush, kind of weakened his own negotiating position.
And then the sink.
Ah, yes, the sink. October 26, 2022. Walks into Twitter HQ carrying a literal sink. Tweets, let that sink in.
Such a Musk move. A groan-worthy pun, but very symbolic.
Totally. Signaled the changing of the guard, his love for public stunts. Then, after a final scramble,
including a last-minute $90 million wire transfer to Twitter's lawyers.
Just 10 minutes before closing, yeah. Then, the deal was done. His smile apparently marked the end of this long, on-again, off-again chase.
Okay, so the bird is freed, as he put it.
Yeah.
And then the chaos really begins, right? Transformation into X, immediate changes.
Yeah, what's striking is just how fast he moved. Unprecedented disruption, which raises that big question. Was this necessary shock therapy for a stagnant company, or just self-inflicted wounds?
The firings were immediate.
Within minutes, Agrawal, Segal, Gade, the general counsel, Sean Edgett, all fired, escorted out by security. Musk brings in his own people right away, Jared Birchall, his fixer, Alex Spiro, his lawyer.
And the message to remaining staff was intense.
Extremely hardcore, that was the term. Work long hours at high intensity. If you didn't commit, you were out.
Layoffs hit hard.
About half the company. Teams working on human rights, accessibility, core infrastructure, gone or bedded. Some engineers were apparently judged just by the amount of code they wrote.
And people were coming in just to swipe their badges.
Yeah, reports of that, just to avoid being flagged as inactive and terminated. Morale, obviously, plummeted. Engineers joked, the beatings will continue until morale improves. Grim humor.
Then came the Twitter Blue revamp. The blue check mark for anyone who pays.
He called the old system one of lords and peasants, believed making it purchasable would democratize things, fight bots.
But the result was Instant chaos.
Total chaos. Widespread impersonation, fake accounts for Eli Lilly, Nintendo, American Girl, politicians, causing real-world stock drops for some companies. Advertisers freaked out.
Musk called it a zombie wave attack.
Yeah, a World War Z attack, a fraud. But the damage was done. Major brands like Apple, IBM, Disney, they paused their ads.
Big financial hit.
Over $75 million in losses estimated just from that initial wave. Musk blamed activist groups for destroying free speech, threatened to name and shame them.
And his whole approach to content moderation changed too. Freedom of speech, not freedom of reach.
Right. The idea being hateful stuff wouldn't be amplified, even if allowed. Though, arguably, Twitter was already doing something similar. He debated it with Yoel Roth, the head of trust and safety.
Roth initially impressed Musk.
Yeah, with his nuanced views on things like misgendering policy, the Babylon Bee ban. But Roth worried about dismantling protections for vulnerable groups.
And Roth eventually resigned.
He did. He cited concerns for his safety after Musk's followers started targeting him online.
Wow, and the political controversies just kept coming.
Oh, yeah. Tweeting, then deleting a conspiracy theory about Paul Pelosi, banning the account tracking his private jet, then banning journalists who reported on the banning.
And amplifying things like the Great Replacement Theory, attacking the ADL.
Led to even more advertisers pulling out. He also publicly defended Alex Jones of InfoWars, reinstated figures like neo-Nazi Andrew Anglin. Very controversial move.
But beyond content, the cost-cutting was brutal.
Maniacal, according to the sources. Musk and loyalist Steve Davis just went after everything. Decided, we just won't pay landlords for office rent. Cut cleaning services.
Making the office a sweatbox?
Yeah, reports of it reeking because cleaning was cut. He personally ordered data center shutdowns, even turned his plane around mid-flight to oversee server removals himself. Extremely hands-on, you could say.
Did regulators notice all this?
Definitely. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, launched a big investigation, sent tons of demands, interviewed former execs. They suspected he was just gutting the privacy program.
And Gandhi, the former legal chief, sued the Indian government.
Yeah, over their censorship demands, which happened before Musk took over but became part of this larger regulatory picture. All while Musk is pushing his everything app idea.
Back to X.com again.
Exactly. Rebranding Twitter to X, new logo on the building, his vision, messaging, payments, everything in one app. Said he'd eventually ditch his phone number.
But the challenges were piling up, weren't they? Competition.
Huge challenge. Zuckerberg launches Threads, gets 10 million signups almost instantly, seen as the biggest threat to Musk's platform.
And that poll asking if he should step down.
That must have stung. 57.5% of 17.5 million votes said yes. A shock to Musk's system, the sources say. His Tesla stock took a hit, too.
And employee morale never recovered.
Doesn't sound like it. Constant layoffs, the micromanagement, firing people for criticizing him publicly, created this atmosphere of fear. Key people just left for Google, OpenAI, safer places.
His personal life seemed chaotic, too.
Yeah, the sources touch on that. Multiple kids via surrogate, public fights with partners, family, mirroring the company's turbulence, perhaps. He even complained publicly about how hard acquiring Twitter was, being dumped on every day.
So, stepping back, this whole saga, this deep dive into Twitter becoming X under Musk, it's this incredible mix of tech, money, personality, human nature.
Definitely requires some critical thinking. So many different ways to see it. Necessary disruption, destructive ego trip. Exactly. And knowledge is really most valuable when you can understand it, apply it. This case study gives you plenty to chew on there.
So what does this all mean for you listening? You've just navigated a really pivotal and frankly wild moment in social media history.
We've seen how personal beliefs combined with almost unimaginable wealth can fundamentally reshape a global platform. It impacts everything, right? Free speech, corporate culture.
So consider this. How does a platform built for instant connection handle the sheer complexity of content, money, and control, especially when its future seems tied to the, let's say, unpredictable nature of its owner?
Yeah, and what does Twitter, now X, tell us about where online communication is heading? And who really holds the power in these digital spaces that shape so much of our world? Something to think about.